Am I the antagonist for telling a married woman her marriage sounds miserable? Update 2. Had a Zoom tonight with my family, and we read through this. Unbeknownst to me, my parents and her parents have talked to her about this inappropriate behavior for years, going back to my 20s, even saying, "We don't talk about your choices, so stop pushing marriage on her." She's also made comments to my siblings trying to bring them down as well. Parents had no idea because we try not to make it a bigger deal. It's all jealousy. Well, my mild-mannered parents are pissed and have stated that next family get-together, they are going to ask her how her and her husband got past the cheating and make comments to her about her life choices and bullying. I think that's going too far, but given that the adults spoke to her several times and she keeps doing it, I'll allow them put her in her place. Petty, but now that I know they spoke to her several times, the gloves are off. I'm not the asshole. Update. More on her audacity. She called me an hour ago bitching me out because I offered to give my second car to my brother's daughter for her 16th birthday, since I never drive it. My niece posted on social media thanking me for being so generous. She wanted to know why I wouldn't offer it to her kid who is in college and needs it more than my niece. I simply told her it's my decision what I do with my car and that my niece and I are close. She went on for 20 minutes before I bluntly said, "It's my car and my choice of what to do with it. Deal with it." Then I hung up. I, 45 years old, attended a wedding a few weeks ago when a cousin, 55 years old, was talking about how she wishes I would marry. I've heard the struggles of her marriage. She cheated, he took her back. They do everything he wants. She's given up her hobbies and learned to enjoy his. He controls the money. And she works part-time and she could never afford to live on her own, etc. And for 20 years, I've heard how I should get married. I've always said it's not a priority, and if it happens, it happens. I've repeatedly said throughout the years I enjoy being single. I've been proposed to multiple times and I like living life on my terms. I can embrace my hobbies, which are expensive, have a great job, live on my own, have great friends, I travel, and I've had great long-term relationships. My life is full. I've been financially independent since I was 22. She has never been financially independent. The entire family knows I'm generous with my time and money, whether it's a gift or helping somebody out financially without expecting repayment, electricity, groceries, school expenses, etc. Marriage has never been a priority to me. I finally had it with the comments and her not respecting my life. I finally told her I respect her opinions, but I felt like her marriage was that of convenience and sounds absolutely miserable to me. I would die a slow death if I was in a marriage like hers, all of which is true. I like being able to make my own decisions, and if the right person comes along it's fine, but that it's not a goal of mine, never has been. The look of shock on her face said it all. She didn't care for that and is painting me out to be mean. After 20 years of comments and pressure, I finally said what needed to be said to get the comments to stop. She couldn't fathom that somebody wouldn't want to have her life, and to me it sounds like a prison sentence. She also can't fathom somebody could be happy living my life. So am I the asshole? It's so important to stand up against societal pressure to settle down and get married just for the sake of it. Your daughter is better off being happily single than trapped in a miserable relationship like those criticizing her. Plus, the energy to shut down those who insist on pushing marriage and kids in 2024 is exactly what we need. It may not be easy, but calling out family members for their nosy comments can be so rewarding in the end. Stay strong and don't let anyone make you feel bad for speaking the truth. Would I be the antagonist for telling my friend she's not ready to be a mother? I, 29 female and friends with Lauren, 33 female. She is one of the most loving, welcoming, giving people on the planet and was there for me through the lowest point of my life. Over the course of our friendship, I've noticed some patterns of hers that concern me, but as a friend, I just held the belief that she is on her own journey and all will be well. For example, she would state she wants a financially stable, family man but date men who lived at home and held minimum wage jobs, only to make that the cause of fights in their relationships. She is very vocal about how badly she wants to settle down and be a mom. She meets a man and after one date she would say, "I've never felt this way about someone. We're so connected, I think he's my person." And then 3 weeks later she can't stand him and it's all his fault. These men are often fresh out of long-term relationships, in between jobs or love to party when she is consciously sober. However, she often gets clouded by how good the man is in bed and how we had sex for hours. Again, all of this is her body and her choice, and if she is okay with her choices, then they don't affect me, so why should I judge? For the record, part of me is jealous because I have never had sex for hours and she makes it sound like a bunch of fun, haha. She also lives a very bohemian lifestyle with multiple roommates, performing gigs, lots of concerts, and spends a lot of money on her gorgeous tattoos. Now, here's where I may be being an asshole. Recently, we caught up and she was telling me about Jeremy, 34 male. She's met him a total of 3 times in as many weeks and has decided he is her person, saying all the things she has before. At first I'm thinking, fine, do your thing, girl. She then says that right before she met him, she decided to stop taking birth control and the next man I sleep with is going to be the father of my babies. I asked if Jeremy knew that, after they'd already been intimate, and she said no. She also said that Jeremy is fresh out of a relationship and still in talks with his ex-girlfriend, potentially on the verge of reconciling. I asked her if it was a good idea to keep sleeping with him with all these unknowns, and she said, "I hear you, but I'd do anything for him." In the same conversation, she mentioned wanting to buy a house in the next 6 months by asking friends to borrow thousands of dollars, and immediately followed that up with how she is draining her savings to finish her tattoo sleeve. Again, most of these choices don't have an effect on me, and I get that, hence my concern I may be the asshole. But I can't help but feel for the potential unborn child to some random dude that she barely knows born into a financially unstable environment just because she feels her biological clock ticking. Would I be the asshole for voicing my concerns about her lack of forethought and rash decision-making? Am I just being too traditional in my thinking? I believe Jeremy deserves to know that the woman he's involved with is trying to baby trap him. It's incredibly irresponsible and selfish of her to make such decisions without informing him. Not only is she not ready to be a mother, but she also seems to lack valuable qualities as a member of society. It's messed up to secretly try to make someone a father right out of a relationship. I wouldn't want to be friends with someone like that. Am I the antagonist for not going to my mom's house to help my half-sister? So I, a 17-year-old female, have a bunch of half-siblings from my mom. Mom cheated on my dad and got pregnant while they were still married, and my half-sister Erica is the baby that resulted from her cheating. My dad did a DNA test to confirm Erica wasn't his, and then he only sought parental responsibilities for me. They shared custody of me 50-50, and Dad paid child support for me. My mom tried to get him to take responsibility for Erica too, but he refused. Erica's father has never been part of her life. Over the next several years, my mom had Jace, Liam, Cassie, Ava, and Paula. All of us have a different dad. I'm the only one with a dad in my life. After Jace was born, my mom lost custody of all of us for 2.5 years. Dad took sole custody of me at that time. Erica went to our mom's parents, and Jace was taken in by his paternal grandmother. Mom eventually got herself into a place where she could get custody back of Erica and Jace, and she was pregnant with Liam during that period. I never went back to 50-50 with her though, and instead she was granted every other weekend of me. My relationship with my half-siblings is not great. The biggest issue is that I'm not there that often, and there's jealousy that I have a dad and they don't. Erica and I have the worst relationship by far. She is so bitter about my dad not claiming all of them and raising us together and saving all of my half-siblings. Every time I am at my mom's, she will insult my dad and call him names and tell me I should pick them over my dad. She asked me how I can live with someone who turns his back on kids who should be his. I have told her to stop countless times. We fight about it every time I go to mom's house. We also fight because I refuse to just pack them all up and insist my dad starts raising all my half-siblings. Erica has started to say she wishes my dad would drop dead, and then I'll be all alone because I have rejected them by refusing to help, and I deserve to be alone, and my dad deserves to be dead for turning his back on kids. That was when I was sort of like, forget it, and I do my best to avoid Erica where I can. I also stopped going for every other weekend, and my mom doesn't seem to care, so it's worked out okay. 2 weekends ago, Erica called and said she had an assignment for school and needed help with it because she was about to fail her class. She wanted me to go to mom's and help her, and I refused. I told her she's on her own and I don't help people who wish my dad dead and wish me to be alone. She started crying on the phone, but I hung up. My mom called last week and yelled at me because Erica was upset and had failed, and she told me I was supposed to be the leader and the best big sister to all my siblings. But I acted like an only child who only cares about my dad. Erica also sent me a really angry text. Am I the a-hole? It sounds like you're dealing with a lot of dysfunction within your family, and it's not fair for Erica's mom or your own to expect you to take on responsibilities that aren't yours. I agree that going no contact with your mom and Erica might be the best option for your own well-being. It's important to prioritize your own mental health and not feel obligated to be a parent to Erica. Hopefully, Erica can get the help she needs to work through her jealousy and animosity towards you and your dad. Stay strong and take care of yourself. Am I the antagonist for adopting my sister? I, 20-year-old male, lived with my father and stepmother who was way younger. They got married around 10 years ago and had a kid, Victoria, 9-year-old female. About a year ago, my father and stepmother sadly died in a car crash, leaving me and my sister all the benefits and burdens. Luckily, they had insurance. Everything was not as easy as it should have been. My sister at this point had no official guardian, and underage kids can't make a financial decision with inheritance, meaning that we had a house, a car, a small loan, credit cards, and no legal rights to do anything with that. At this point, I was not ready to deal with it all immediately as there was a funeral to organize with the help of our grandparents. When we were driving back from the funeral, my sister was crying, and I assumed it was because of the obvious reason, but at one point she said, I don't want to live with my grandparents, her mother's parents. And I was shocked from this new information. As it turned out, her grandmother was already moving on with paperwork to adopt my sister and told my sister that, which they can legally do, but I did not want to lose my sister too, as my grandparents lived in another county. I also applied for guardianship of my sister and made her grandparents very mad. My stepmother's parents never liked my father, me, or any relatives from this side of the family. I was ready to lose as Child Protective Services sided with my sister's grandparents. Brother is just a school student. Last week I received a decision from the court. This is translated summary from my language. The court decides to give full parental rights to the brother because breaking up an already working family dynamic is not reasonable. The kid in question already has a familiar routine, friends, school, and social life in their current home, and changing that has no benefits. The kid does not need another huge change in her life after such a big loss. At the time of making a decision, the brother is already working in a full-time job and earning enough to provide for the small family. The plaintiffs claim that going to trade school makes him less educated is not relevant. I was still in school when it all started and graduated last summer. I was offered a position in company I was intern at. The age of the brother is also not relevant as the brother is adult by law. I had tears in my eyes reading that. The judge did not care about any claims made against me and focused well-being of my sister. The judge asked my sister what she wanted and accepted that. Of course, all that caused me to be a giant jerk to the whole family from my stepmother's side. My phone is blowing up, and they claim I did it to receive full control of the money, even though like 90% of it goes to mortgage, credit cards, etc. Am I the a-hole? Not the antagonist. It's truly appalling how the grandparents treated the situation, trying to manipulate it behind everyone's back. Kudos to you for stepping up and advocating for your sister. It's clear you have her best interests at heart. The judge showed compassion in recognizing the trauma the child is already facing and not wanting to add more stress. Kids are not objects to be fought over, and your actions show that you are far from being an asshole in this situation. Am I the antagonist for asking my husband to cut back, quit smoking weed, BC? I believe it's made him an angry person. My husband, 28 years old male, and I, 30 years old female, have been together for 12 years and married for 2. When I met him in high school, he smoked weed but stopped after we started dating and only occasionally smoked at a party. He started back up last year around March 2023, when a coworker sold him weed, and it has been downhill ever since. He has a job and goes to work, but anything else that's not on his agenda, he's less than thrilled to do. My cousin's wedding and friend's wedding in 2023 were like pulling teeth to get him to go. He'd say, "I don't even talk to these people. Small tasks make him angry." His road rage is unbelievable. He used to drive like a grandpa. He's accused me of cheating on him with his brother for the last 3 months. I'm going to a concert in a different state next month, and he's already starting arguments and saying I'm going to cheat on him when I'm gone. I've never ever cheated on him or anyone in my life. I read online that smoking weed daily can cause personality changes and anger issues. No, I don't believe everything I read on the internet, but there is a lot of information about this online, so it makes me wonder if this is what's caused him to change so drastically. I asked him to take a night off, and he says, "Why should I?" He is also a heavy tobacco chewer and has chewed since he was about 15. He has had stomach issues for years. He has seen multiple doctors, had an upper endoscopy and colonoscopy, and the only thing that the doctors came up with is that he has anxiety. He did not accept that diagnosis and refused to take the meds. I know weed isn't necessarily addictive, but he's addicted to something about it because he absolutely refuses to take a night off. In the last year, he has not taken a single night off from smoking. I told him he's lived without it for 10 years, and now all of a sudden he needs it to survive. He informed me that when he worked at his job the first time, like 5 years ago, that he was smoking weed behind my back, and I didn't notice a change in him then. So how could it be the weed when actually when he worked there the first time our relationship did have issues? Now he's been back at this job for a year and a half and has turned into a completely different person. He's told me to get divorce papers at least twice a week for the last few months when we argue. I do respect the healing qualities that weed has, but I feel like this has gone beyond that and has had other effects on him as a person than just helping his stomach. I have never been a weed smoker, so he just says that I think weed is the devil and I'm asking him to stop because I don't like it. I didn't have an issue with it until our relationship was being affected. I thought I was ready to have children with him, but now I'm seriously considering my life choices and if I want to start over as a 30-year-old woman with no kids yet. Maybe I'm the crazy person, but a lot has happened over the past year that make me think weed is what's changed him. You should ask yourself if you want to spend the next 30 years being yelled at and drag someone through life who makes every special event miserable. Maybe he's just mean and the weed removes the mask. As a wife, you're worried about your husband's well-being and the impact his behavior is having on your relationship. It's concerning if his frequent weed use has led to significant changes in his personality and attitude. Your husband's refusal to even consider cutting back or taking a break is troubling. It's his role as your partner to acknowledge the impact of his behavior and be willing to address it for the sake of your relationship and his own well-being. Am I the antagonist for saying I won't visit my boyfriend's family's house because their dog has bit me? I, female age 22, and my boyfriend, male age 22, are arguing over this and we need some unbiased opinions. We'll call my boyfriend Sean. Sean has a family dog that has reactivity problems. On 2 separate occasions, I was bit while visiting his family. The first time the dog had something in its mouth, I tried grabbing it so he wouldn't swallow it and he bit my hand. It was my fault though because I didn't know that was an obvious trigger for the dog. It did penetrate my skin but only barely. I learned not to do that with the dog anymore. The second time was when Sean's family and I were in the kitchen together. I simply stepped back to reach for something and accidentally tripped over the dog. He then bites my calf. This time it did not break the skin but was terrifying and left deep bruises for a few days after the bite. At this point, Sean and I had multiple fights about how I think the dog should wear a muzzle. Apparently his family had tried muzzle training, but it didn't work for some reason. They said it was too difficult. According to them, they also aren't able to put the dog in the other room or in a crate because he reacts barely to this. So there is no option to keep his guest from getting bit other than hoping that you don't accidentally trigger the dog. I am not the only person the dog has bitten. He has bitten most, if not all, of Sean's immediate family while they were living at the house. Sean's dad had some of the worst bites though. However, the worst bite was while vacationing at a lake house with Sean and a bunch of his family. One of those family members was a toddler, around 2 years old. He got bit from petting the dog and broke the skin. The kid was fine but probably scared, physically and mentally. I was shocked that they still didn't think the dog needed to be on a muzzle after that. Just 3 days ago, one of Sean's family's friends shooed the dog down from the kitchen counter and he bit him. After that, Sean and I got in a huge fight about how his family still hadn't muzzled the dog and how I don't feel safe anymore. I think they should do something about it, whether that's putting the dog in a separate room or muzzle training or anything else. I don't have control over their actions to prevent the dog from biting people. But because of that, I do not feel safe being in the house until something is done. So I told Sean that I do not want to visit unless the dog is muzzle trained or put in a separate part of the home while I am visiting. Sean feels as though I am overreacting and that I should just learn the dog's triggers and that the bites aren't that bad. It's important to note that this is not a bad dog. He has had some issues in his past that makes him reactive. I don't blame the dog, but I still don't want to put myself in danger due to what the dog can't control. Am I the asshole for saying I won't go to their house if the dog is physically able to bite me? Sean's family sounds like they need to take responsibility for their dangerous dog and realize the impact it's having on their relationships. It's completely justified to prioritize your safety and well-being by avoiding situations where you feel at risk. People like Sean who downplay the severity of the situation are simply not worth arguing with. His family's negligence is concerning, and it's no wonder they're losing friends over it. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.